So, I was thinking back on the days of the chief nursing officer that abused the 15, and I keep saying 16. He wasn't 16, he was 15 years old. And you know how most people that are awake, you know about the military industrial complex, right? Which is really your medical or your military medical industrial complex, okay? And what's interesting is that the abusive chief nursing officer that came from University of Illinois Chicago, which is also where Illinois Nurses Association Union has their biggest contract, she came to us from there. I didn't realize until reading her bio recently that she was former Lieutenant Navy nurse. Not a big deal. Except that the prior chief nursing officer, the one that left, and she left in all this controversy, she was also a Navy nurse. I don't run into many Navy nurses, and not that it's a big deal. I'm just saying it's kind of strange back to back. And what's even stranger is it's the former chief nursing officer, which was the staff, we all liked her. She left in all this controversy, and then she brought Illinois Nurses Association to us because, oh, this is so bad. And yet she was in some of the meetings at the beginning. Like we would meet, she had all of our contact information. It wasn't that big of a hospital. And so she's like, we're all going to meet here and meet with the rep from Illinois Nurses Association. I mean, she was gone. Why did she care? I mean, it was said that she, maybe she wanted to stick it to the hospital, or maybe what it was is, that she wanted to help us. But what I wonder more is if it was all just designed. Because hospitals can't, especially a freestanding psych, they can't just close. They need the state's approval. So you have to look at this whole thing as on a global scale, right? Because way back then, this global agenda has been planned for a long time to take down America. So back then and continuing forward has been all these hospital mergers and monopolies. Every hospital being under one hospital. It's all part of your socialist communist system. And your unions are the biggest cartels to do the government's work that the government can't do because they can't do it because of our Constitution. So to plan for their 2030 event, which I think they had to speed that forward, right? Because Trump got into office, so they had to move that date forward with their plan. But way back then, which was before Trump came in, it was that former chief nursing officer that brought the Illinois Nurses Association Union to us. And then she kept on us about, we'll get this person and get that person. And it was like, why? She's gone. Why is she doing all this? And yet that Illinois Nurses Association Union, they loved her. They always praised her. And she was a Navy nurse, and so was the abusive one that came from the same hospital where the biggest nursing union contract is. Just shady. But more than that, I was making a big deal about what the chief nurse, unlike anybody else who wanted to just everybody to act like it didn't happen. I kept saying things about the chief nursing officer abusing this boy. And yet, I couldn't get anywhere, obviously. I wasn't working there anymore. So I said I contacted aldermen and all of this. And at the same time, I still was occasionally in touch with this former chief nursing officer, okay? Told her I'm trying to contact newspapers. I'm trying to contact anybody to get, advocacy for this situation. And then that former chief nursing officer, I don't know, she texted me one day and she had said, there's going to be a reporter calling you. In fact, this reporter from the Chicago Tribune was going to talk to many of the nurses from this place I had worked at. And so she's like, just go, tell her what happened with the boy. I'm like, okay. I'm like, well, how do you know this person? And she said, it's a friend of a friend. Except that the head of the Chicago Tribune was on the board of this hospital. I didn't know that at the time, so when she told me this, I thought, oh, good. Well, then the story will get out there. I had some relief. So then I told this reporter everything, and they did run a story. It didn't come out till 2014, and it's a watchdog story. It's the Tribune watchdog. So for 7 days, every day on the front page of the Chicago Tribune, they ran a story about the poor conditions of DCFS 3 facilities, but not one mention of everything I told the reporter about the facility I was at, what that chief nursing officer did to that kid. Nothing about that. But of course there wouldn't be. There wouldn't be, because the head of the Chicago Tribune was on the board of that hospital. See, I believe the union was never meant to be successful there. It was brought in to help give a reason for them to close it. Not the union, but so that the CEO of that hospital could go to the state and say, we need to close. I mean, the state won't usually close hospitals, especially psych hospitals, because there's not many of them. You have to show really good reason. So if they showed their financial debt was so bad, and now they really pushed that the union was causing it was causing more money than they had, and then the state did give them approval. But see, all these people had connections to the state as well, because even the CEO of this hospital, she was a nun. That's why I don't like nuns. For other reasons too, but they're mean. But she was also involved in juvenile justice in Springfield, the state capital, before she ran this place. So she wouldn't, given the connections basically being, so corrupted in Illinois, she wouldn't have had a hard time closing it. But maybe the hope, what they really wanted to do was close it at a certain time, so a certain healthcare system would come in and buy it right away. And then that healthcare system would be under that global umbrella, which it is, because it ended up being U.S. Health Vest that bought them. I think they closed in 2014, and I think in 2016 is when they were bought. So it served my point is, all of that would have served the global agenda, because the military-industrial complex, think about it, they've been involved in the science for a long time, most especially in psychiatry. Think of the dark ages of psychiatry. It's because of your military medical industrial complex, doing researching and all that kind of stuff, lobotomies. This is the reason why it's a system that doesn't get better. You have to remove these corrupt people that have no good intentions, yet they're praised as being experts, and they have all these degrees, yet they're nothing but scumbags. I mean, that's all they are. So, but it's still the military-industrial complex controlling it. And it just seems strange. Back-to-back Navy nurses were chief nursing officers, and one of them brought a union hospital in that was from the same place that had their biggest contract, where the abusive chief nursing officer was from, that came into us. And then this whole, this is ridiculous. Chicago Tribune was never going to highlight. They did do a story in 2014 for 7 days. They did, and it was the reporter I talked to. But not one mention of anything I talked about. They just picked 3 group homes that had all this horrible stuff happening to kids. But maybe to just throw cover on themselves, because all of it was shady, and maybe they didn't obviously expect me to keep calling aldermen and wanting justice for this kid. I don't know. But I'll tell you one thing. All of it went to serve the globalist communist agenda.